Welcome to Finance TV. Many see Indonesia as the next big thing for investors. However, the country is an uncharted territory that poses more questions than answers. Maybe we can shed some light on the subject. My guest today for this video conference is Nick Gandolfo, Senior Vice President at HSBC Indonesia. Mr. Gandolfo, what is the economic outlook and what are the economic indicators for Indonesia in 2012?
Sure. Indonesia remains a vibrant economy and a resilient economy. At HSBC, we believe Indonesia will still show economic growth this year of over 6%. The last two quarters have grown at 6.3 and 6.4 respectively. Indonesia has a fairly domestic-oriented economy where net exports represent a relatively small contribution to growth. So consumption, investment are the key drivers of growth, assisted by accommodative monetary policy. So the economic conditions are pretty robust, and we expect to see still some solid growth rates looking out to this year and next year.
As an emerging country, manufacturing is the most important sector, followed by agriculture and mining. For what businesses do investments in Indonesia present an opportunity?
Yeah, sure. I think the opportunity that Indonesia represents is quite broad. I think there's opportunities in services, there's opportunities in trading, and there's also opportunities in manufacturing. Indonesia attracted record levels of foreign direct investment last year at just over $19 billion US, and this year is on track to have another record year, and foreign direct investment for the first 6 months is already above $11 billion US, and that's a growth rate of around 30%. The key sectors that foreign investors are looking at investing in Indonesia are around the areas of chemicals, electronics, utilities, and the big two ones, telecommunications and storage, and also mining. So there's some hot sectors that continue to attract investor interest at record levels for Indonesia. So the investment climate and attractiveness of Indonesia is strong and continues to grow.
In the world's biggest archipelago, consisting of more than 17,000 islands, infrastructure must be a key issue. What is the status quo?
Yeah, sure. Look, Indonesia is a wide and the archipelago and the biggest archipelago in the world. However, from an economic perspective, 60% of the population and around 60% of the GDP is concentrated on the main island of Java and some of the other key cities. Infrastructure is a challenge in doing business, but it also represents a good opportunity. The government has a master plan for the next 15 years where they're seeking approximately $460 billion US to come in to make Indonesia a top 10 economy in the world, and half of that money is approximately slated to go towards infrastructure projects. So I think, in fairness, infrastructure could be better. It represents a good opportunity, and it's very active at the moment in terms of ports, toll roads, and a number of areas which will be invested upon to improve that over time.
Let us talk about banking. How stable and how professional is the banking system? Do foreign companies have to fund themselves locally? And if not, should they?
Yeah, sure. I think in terms of Indonesia, the banking system has come a long way from the Asian financial crisis in '97. There's been a lot of restructuring done, and it's a very vibrant, it's a very competitive, and a very fast-growing industry at the moment. Credit growth is greater than 25% thus far. This year, there's 122 banks, there's 15,000 branches, many foreign banks, many local banks, so it's a vibrant, dynamic sector. In terms of funding yourself, I guess generally what we see in our customer base is funding from some equity, funding from some shareholder loans from offshore, and then selectively funding from banks domestically in Indonesia. It really depends on a couple of variables, your tax situation, but also one thing I guess for the viewers, in terms of Indonesian rupiah, you can only borrow that onshore in Indonesia. However, you can also get money from offshore and convert that, but then you have a currency issue and you need to work with the bank to make sure that risk is managed. So we see a combination of structures. Indonesia is fairly open in terms of its capital markets and moving money around versus some of the other emerging markets. So you've got a few options in terms of how you want to fund your operations.
Considering population, Indonesia is the fourth biggest country in the world. Moreover, it is a very young country. What can you tell us about demographics and about the development of the Indonesian labor market?
Yeah, sure. It's probably one of the, in some ways, least known aspects about Indonesia. It's the fourth largest population in the world at 240 million. The population still continues to grow at 1%, so it's a big market. It's a big economy and a big consumer market as well. 50% of the population is actually less than 30. So over the next 10 to 15 years, you'll hear what's called a demographic dividend coming for Indonesia. So many of the students of today start to go through universities and begin to work to create more wealth and assist the rising incomes throughout the economy. So there's a lot of vibrant, intelligent, young, English-speaking Indonesians that will go from strength to strength over the years to come.
How do you feel the upswing influence people's attitude?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think Indonesians are very optimistic people, so I think they're seeing the benefits of this persistent, strong economic growth. Foreign direct investment is an important aspect of that to support Indonesia's development over time, and trading is also important as well. So we see in our customer base a good confidence level towards Indonesia, attracting those record levels of investment, expanding their plants, starting out plants, doing more import or export volume. So I think the feel and the confidence about the economy and about Indonesia is certainly improving. And Indonesia is also investment grade now as of the beginning of 2012. So a lot of other people are seeing the Indonesia story as being strong, robust and resilient, and really taking another good look as Indonesia being another key emerging market.
What is important for doing business in Indonesia on a personal level? What are Western people faced with?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's a fascinating country with really interesting people. I think I would recommend people it's relationship. It's investing in relationships. It's spending time in Indonesia. It's taking the time to do frequent and multiple trips and personal visits, getting to know the people, getting to know the place, getting to know the environment, I think is the most important thing. And also coupled with a good, some patience. Some things do take a little bit longer, but the rewards and the potential are certainly there. But it's all about people. It's all about trust. It's all about frequent visits and building that relationship, and that will really open up potential for engaging with Indonesia.
In conclusion, Mr. Gandolfo, I would like to ask you 3 yes or no questions. Please answer them as concisely as possible. Do you see many Western businesses building plants down in Indonesia?
Yes.
Do you personally believe Indonesia will have to cope with social issues?
In some areas, but overall, I think the economic story is strong. That will give the opportunity for many people to benefit in that, but as an emerging market, there will be some challenges from time to time.
Do you believe it is likely Indonesia will outperform China in the long run?
That's a difficult one to answer. In some sectors, yes, but I think they're both key, large, important markets that companies we see in our customer base, and HSBC would recommend have a strategy for both investment or trading. China important, Indonesia important as well as two key emerging markets with lots of potential to gain value from.
Thank you, Mr. Gandolfo, for your time. Thank you for watching. We're looking forward to having you again. Have a good time.